And we have with us here Tom and Kateri. We have two employees of Whitewater who joined us, and we're kind of trying to fill them in a little bit on these projects that we're involved with. So one being the proposed water main from the Gristmill Way well site down into the center of town. And Elaine McElroy is on with us because when we had the Housing Task Force meeting last week, we talked about what kind of advocacy we could be encouraging or doing in order to get support for the Article 10, which is requesting the borrowing authorization for the installation of the new water main. Obviously, we do hope to get some funding through Mass Works and maybe some other sources as well to offset the cost on this, but that application won't go in until later this month, and there's no guarantee that we're going to be approved for it, but we're going to try. So I open this to Elaine now. So Elaine, do you have any other suggestions in terms of what we, the commissioners, can be doing with respect to advocacy for to get Article 10 through the town meeting?
Well, I do think, the piece you wrote and going before the select board was great. I was talking to Dan Silverman yesterday, and the town will be having some virtual pre-town meetings. So, I would hope both the water commissioners and housing would be represented there to, talk to the article. I think just really trying to make sure people understand it.
Do we know when it's going to take place?
Not yet, no. It's still in the planning stages. But the town is anticipating doing, some voter education sessions about the warrant before the town meeting. So, has encouraged people that are behind the articles to create a one-page info sheet that can be handed out at town meeting too. So what you've done is a great, you really have it right there, except for my suggestion to.
I will add those points, and I'll try to streamline some of the rest of it as well to make it, to make it a little.
Yeah, no, thank you. We really appreciate all the work that's going into this.
So, so in terms of Mass Works, the Mass Works grant application, the status of that is that I have not spoken to Mike since he got back, but that's we do have to get back working on this. I have kind of done an initial kind of pass through on that, filling in what I can. As I mentioned before, we have met with Paul Millette at Environmental Partners on this. Paul is going to be working with us on has already started working with us on the technical piece of this, having done the initial estimates on the cost to install the new water main, as well as the option of just replacing the main on Coles Neck. Paul had made some other suggestions that we really need to follow up on as soon as we can. And that has to do with starting some of the additional work that needs to be done, including the survey that needs to be done on the land associated with this. That would be any of the areas around Gristmill Way, Route 6, and then on Briar Lane. So obviously we're not going to have all of that done before this application goes in. And as I mentioned before, the application period, the window for submission is August 17th through the 28th. So we're not going to have the survey work finished, but at least we'd like to be able to say we've identified company that's going to be doing the work, and that they've gotten, they're starting to mobilize to do that, which would hopefully be taking place in the fall. Then there's the other work that needs to be done, working with the Department of Highways in terms of the fact that it's coming down Route 6, that one section between Coles Neck Road and Briar Lane. Obviously, we have to, get approval from DOH to do that. And that takes time. So that there are a number of those kind of tasks that need to get started, get underway. So that will hopefully improve our competitive position with respect to the request for this grant. Because it is very competitive. And I think that, those issues around what happened in Truro, I don't know if any of you read the more recent report on that that came out. I believe it was as recently as today, that there's still significant resistance to the housing project, the Cloverleaf housing project. And they received a MassWorks grant last year, and they were supposed to be starting their project this year. Obviously, that's not happening. So I don't know if that's going to impact on our position, our project, but I hope not. So that's essentially where we're at with MassWorks. I will, I will keep you up to date on that. And if I need any help with this, if Mike and I need help, I will be reaching out to some of you, Kateri or Tom, for help on that. So,
Jim, do you anticipate needing anything from Whitewater on this?
I don't have it all in front of me, but Eric, if I do, should I be going through John or you on that one?
On the application component, you can probably reach out to me on that.
Okay. I don't think there's much, as I said, Paul Millette did the biggest technical piece for us back in January when we had to come up with some numbers on what it was going to cost. So he did a fairly detailed kind of estimate on the cost to install this water main, including all the connections and hydrants and so it's essentially a full estimate that we can take that and then have them. I would assume that we would then need to go out to bid for engineering on this, whether or not it's whether it's Environmental Partners or another company. But the town will require us to go for competitive bid, at least for that. That's that piece of it.
Understood.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said understood. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I mean, we've used Environmental Partners for all the work that's been done to date on the water system here. And so Paul is most familiar with our system and where we're at with it. So, okay, what I'd like to do, if we could go on to the next item, which is the water usage chart, which your office Steve sent over from Whitewater. And if there's any questions or comments on this, Gail, did we send you a copy of it?
Did you say Gail?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, you did. Thanks, Jim.
Just want to make sure you got it as well.
Yeah, I did. Thanks.
So Tom or Kateri, do you have any comments or questions on this? Anything we could ask of?
I don't think.
No, I pretty much understand what you're talking about. Anything I can do, if you need some help with this, just give me a whistle. I'll be around.
So Eric, I do have a question for you on this. I've read the DEP regs on the requirement for a secondary or redundant water supply. In this case, it would be the Gristmill Way well field, which right now, the only water main from there is a 4-inch main that obviously won't supply sufficient hydraulic capacity for the system. But, you know, we've been, in the winter months, or throughout the year, the daily average, based on looking at this chart that you folks sent over to us, and I'm sorry I did not copy you folks on this if you didn't see this, but as in the most recent year, or 2019, the average daily usage was throughout the year was 31,578 gallons per day. The capacity of the water main from Coles Neck or from Gristmill Way, as we understand, is limited to 40,000 gallons a day. So we've been, at least on an average, we've been below that. However, when you look at the months of, say, like June, July, August, it vastly exceeds that. It goes up to as much as, I think in one year that was almost 100,000 gallons per day. And most recently is in June of this year, it was 63,205 gallons in June. So the question that I have on this is if DEP looks at the average over the entire year or over at any one time.
John, I don't know if you're available to speak to that in more detail. I am not at this time. I'd have to get back to you, Jim, on that, on whether it's, at any one time or over the course of the year on that average.
They would look at daily. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we
Yes.
can hear you, John.
Yeah, they would look at the whole picture, come down and then actually look around with it. But the Coles Neck, or the Gristmill Way as you call it, isn't really in the best of shape right now down there. The wells, they don't put out, just because you have a number that says that they can put out that much. I don't think at this point in time they're capable of doing it. Partly is related to the SCADA system. So we couldn't run them all at one time now because one of them, and I think it's pump 3, is being affected by the PLC being, on its way out. But I understand you're working on getting that repaired. You're going to go out for bid to have the SCADA system updated. That may help you out there. I know Russ was talking about simply abandoning that station completely, if possible, and spending the money elsewhere. But, it was a very brief conversation, and I don't know where to get the water. I don't think Boy Scout has that much capacity. And also at Coles Neck, if DEP does come down there, they're going to have a look at the generator you have down there. It hasn't ran for a while. Transfer switch.
We know that. And I don't see Tom, or not Tom, I don't see Neil on here, but we have checked out that generator and, and the water commissioners decided that we wouldn't bother to replace it because it's up at that site. We do have the generator at the Boy Scout Camp well site, which we use the primary water source for us. In the event, we decided that in the event of a failure of the Boy Scout Camp well site, not unlike what happened to us 2 months ago when with a lightning strike there, where we lost one of the wells and required replacement of the pump and also the VFD, which I'm not sure if is where we stand with that, John.
And it was supposed to ship. I think it was today. And Book says the minute he gets it, we will install it. But what we did do was we wired directly from the panel to the pump. So it's all set. If we have an emergency, although somebody would have to go down there and actually flip the switch to turn on the chemical by hand, it would run, it would treat the water, and, you know, would just have to stay on site. So if something happens to the other well, we have to pay with that.
Right. So my concern with this is that we are essentially operating on one well at this point, which is the other well at the Boy Scout camp well site. Is that correct?
That's correct, but as I said just now, we do have capability to run the other one if we have to, the other well. Once the PLC is here, it'll run automatically. Right now, if we do choose to use it, it would only be in an emergency, is we would have to run it manually, as well as the chemical addition and supervision.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the SCADA system, we had environmental partners prepare the RFP to go out to potential vendors for that. And I have to check with Mike Travato, our assistant town administrator, to see whether or not he's gotten that back, if it's actually gone out. Because Mike was out on vacation last week, so I don't know the status of that right now. But obviously, you know, we need to get bids back in on that and then select a vendor for it. The company that has dealt with it, you know, in the past is by Butch Nealon, Cape Resources, and Butch is the one who initially recommended to us the replacement of the entire system because of some of the components of it that wasn't integrated. So we got approval from the state to use state funds to proceed with this installation once we had an approved bid on it. So that's what we're waiting on at this point.
And I didn't mean to get too far off base with the West Middle Way or Coles Neck station. I think, you know, it should probably be like evaluated again to see exactly what it can do. And, you know, and I think if DEP does go down there and there's a piece of equipment on site, as in the generator, I don't know if they're going to say it's there, it needs to run. They do that in a lot of places, but when you have Boy Scout, I don't know if they'd make you do it.
Yeah.
It's just food for thought.
So, you're down here routinely on the Cape, correct, John?
Yeah, I live in West Barnstable.
Okay. So what I believe I have your phone number now. So perhaps rather than take up more time with folks here during this meeting, I think we can kind of, you know, maybe chat by phone someday this week.
That's fine, anytime.
So if it's okay, I'll give you a call.
Yeah, that sounds great. Then I'd like to talk about a few things
Great.
as well.
So let's just moving on. Are there any other questions on the water usage chart? I see Kurt's with us as well.
I am. I would have questions, but I'm too late.
You're here.
Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, let's move on.
So, I was just concerned, I had questioned whether or not, you know, that because in the summer months we exceed the capacity of the Gristmill Way water main, and what that means in terms of if DEP would be concerned about that, or if they look at it over the average of the entire year.
They would expect it to meet capacity on the
Yeah.
daily, you know, they would expect them to be able to make the daily flow. I'm sure.
You know, we've lived with this now since that system was built, and it was, I think, it's got to be 16 years ago, the recommendation, environmental partners had recommended that that water main be replaced, and it hasn't been done. So we're taking this opportunity with the potential for developing affordable housing, that we really need to get that done now, and that we could apply for some state funding that would help us with getting that water main replaced. So that's our goal. So if I'm going to pass over these next two, because I will follow up with John with respect to, the status of the SCADA system, where we're at with that, as well as the repairs on the VFD on the Boy Scout camp. Well, and move to the next item, which is a request that came in to Rebecca for installing a water main on Route 6 to the new motel on Route 6.
Where is that motel?
It's the one that Ken Granlund used to own.
I don't know that. That doesn't mean.
It's called
Now it's called Coastal
Getaway.
Coast.
Yes,
Endless-
Endless Coast. So
Okay.
he's
I think
right
I-
next to it's off of Route 6, and he's right next to where the new Habitat for Humanity homes came in.
Okay.
Yep, so he's there, and he noticed that Cumberland Farms and that the marina had water, and he was hoping that he could pull it up Route 6. Not realizing all that would go into that, I said I would ask, and come to find out it's a lot more money than I had anticipated. So I said I would bring it up to you guys and see what you guys could talk about. And I mean, I guess if he's willing to pay it, but I can't imagine he'd be willing to pay $1 million to bring it up the road.
What's the distance?
It's about a mile.
Well, yeah, so it is $1 million. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact is that, if he were to do this, if he would say, oh, I'll pay for it, he's got to pay for the curb stops and hydrants and everything that goes along with it, because we can't be in a position of obligating the town to pay for those components of the system, and those would have to be in, if anybody else along that section of the road wanted water, then, and there's a main running in front of their property, they'd be entitled to it. So we would, we've been through this before. We know that, it would be a huge expense for the town.
Are there other commercial properties along there?
There's, I think there's
It's
that.
going to be the end of the bike trail right
but-
next to the marine shop. But I don't think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are. I think there's that mosquito control place.
All right.
And there is Shepley's.
Okay. Are any of those people interested in water?
We haven't approached them. And the post office and, the Dunkin'
Dunkin'
Donuts.
Donuts, and then the new pot shop that's going in there. And then but what has it? But maybe they don't have it over by there. They have it at their little stop on Main Street.
So I think we need to, you haven't said anything to him yet, right, Rebecca?
I told him I would check it out with you and see what the options were for him, and then I would get back to him.
Yeah, I think that we should advise him that we haven't spent money to have this evaluated or an estimate, but based on the estimates we've seen in the past, just doing, a back of the envelope kind of review of it, that we expect that it could be $1 million. For that.
I'll be in the office tomorrow, so I'll reach out to him and just let him know.
Okay, good. And is Neil with us?
Nope, just Tom and Kateri and
Kurt.
Kurt.
So I don't think we'll have, we can't really have the discussion on the water bottle filling station, because that was something that Neil was going to do. for the recycling committee. So I don't know where that stands at this point. And did we have minutes? I regret I don't have a copy of them.
Oh, you don't? I sent them. Hold on, let me just go check. What was the date again?
14.
Hold on one sec.
There were 4 things you sent, which I printed out, but the minutes was not part of that.
All right, well, when I suggest, okay, well, who was the,
These are the minutes here.
yeah, I see it now.
Okay.
You can postpone and vote on your next meeting if you
Yeah,
want.
let's. yeah,
Sure.
because-
Yep, I'll send them to you right now so that you all have them and you have plenty of time to read, and then I'll resend them when the meeting gets closer.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So-
Yeah.
Rebecca, would you mind sending those to John and I as well, just so we can kind of catch up on the previous meeting, and then we have the context of this one as well?
Yeah, of course. Can you?
Thank you very
grab the
much.
Seltzer water?
Sure, okay.
I guess, can we get back to the issue of the motel that wants the water? I mean, sending the water down Route 6 is, I think, what's going to happen eventually. I mean, can we investigate this a little further?
Well, I think, that when this person contacted Rebecca, it was with the suggestion that they were going to pay for this. And
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. But I think emphasize that if other properties along the route participated, that would make a big difference.
yeah,
Which gets us back to the issue of, are we going to talk about if the water goes by your property, do you have to pay?
that's the way the regulations are currently. Oh, you pay. You mean like a betterment fee or something?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like the rest of the world does.
Well, that would have to be up for, I think we probably have to take that to a town vote.
Would we really?
Well, Kurt, what do you think?
We'd have to do some more research. I'm not sure. I mean, I think we have, as commissioners, I think we've got some latitude with respect to rates and pricing and betterments and that sort of thing and policy, but we'd have to, this goes back to, if we change the rates, how far can we go in changing the rates without impacting previous customers? And certainly to go down the betterment path, we'd be changing the deal. And that may, it may make sense as a policy matter because the prior model wasn't collecting enough revenue to sustain itself. So, we clearly have a revenue model problem that needs addressing with obviously several solutions. But I think we'd have to look into that. I think we do have the latitude, but I'd want to do a little research.
Right. I think we really need to get back into discussing that sort of thing. I mean, there are a lot of things that have come up now that we've had to deal with one after the other. But in the long range, we haven't really been talking much about these kind of issues.
Right.
Well, we did have a discussion, I guess, a couple of meetings back, looking at a scope of work for a consultant, and that was certainly part of that scope of work.
You're right.
Yeah, I think I missed one meeting. Maybe that's the one I missed. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely addressed it in that regard to get a consultant specifically to start to deal with that issue.
But I think I don't think we should lose track of that.
No, I agree with you. And the other thing I was going to ask Rebecca is the $1 million a mile, is that a new estimate, or is it based on the cost that Cumberland Farms / Bay Sales paid? Do we know where it came from?
I made an estimate, and what I used was the estimate that Paul Millette did for us for the replacing the main, bringing it down Route 6 and in Briar Lane, and and the cost per foot on that of an 8-inch main, as well as the curb stops, hydrants, and engineering fees, all of that. So it was really a rough estimate on what this would cost.
Yeah, and a couple years ago, when we looked briefly into possibly going out to Indian Neck, which is like a mile in from the highway, I recall it was in the same range.
The difference is that, and I did kind of do a drive-by and counted the number of properties that are, on either side of Route 6 after, say, Bay Sales and to that motel, and it was like 30-some properties. So that's a little different than the 80-some that were quoted in the estimate from Paul Millette. So, well, we do have the issue that we don't have the money now to do this. And, but I think I agree with Kateri. This is something that we do need to keep on the table, and because it's not going to go away. That we're going to need to come up with a solution for this going forward.
What's the driver for them wanting water?
Did she? Do you know, Rebecca? Did he say?
Yeah, he just he said because they just opened the hotel and he just wanted to see how much it would be for water because he'd rather use town water than the well water. And he would, of course, use the well water for irrigation and whatnot, but he was just looking into the town water. I mean, I can ask because I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow. So worst comes to worst, I'll tell him they're guesstimating $1 million. What are your thoughts? Whatever.
What do you
I don't mind
think
asking.
he
He might be
think
like,
of motel.
he might say, wow, that's a great idea. Sign me up. I don't think so, but you never know.
Hey,
Not. Not.
Well, that's it. That's all that I have on the agenda for this afternoon. But I want to ask Eric or John if they have any questions of us. There is one more thing, and that was the invoice that we received from them. I think we sent it over to everybody, and that was for the Boy Scout camp work that was done, the pump there. But I believe that charge, the $15,278, if I'm not mistaken, does not include the replacement of the VFD.
Correct. So the VFD, John was breaking up a little bit when he was speaking, and I know he can speak to you in more detail when you give him a call, but VFD should be in this week, hopefully, and then we're going to get that installed as soon as possible with Butch. And in the meantime, we have the current well that's running, and John, so as to proactively to put you guys in a better position should something else fail, to have the other pump configured in a way that it can run and produce water. It's just not on the VFD for right now. It has to be run manually, but so as to keep the system pressurized and full and things like that. So it was a temporary, but a backup if there was a major issue. But our hope is that comes in this week and that we're able to get that other VFD installed ASAP.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Eric, do you have anything else? Any other questions of us right now?
No, not question. Just thank you guys for, allowing us to be a part of this. As we work through some of the transitions, we're going to have some questions. You're probably going to have some questions of Whitewater, and we'll be happy to address those to the best of our ability. Russell has had a pretty long relationship with you guys. I think he knows a lot of the inner quirks and different things that all systems have, water, wastewater, you name it. So, and I don't think that, should we find ourselves in a really challenging position that we couldn't reach out still and have a conversation with him. But all in all, like I said, we're gonna work to get up to speed as quickly as possible. We're working in the supporting areas. John has a good level of confidence in Eastham, where we've been working as well, and just to get some additional understanding of the system, understanding of you and your team and the community's needs to be able to continue to support you. So I just be patient with us through any little bumps that we have along the way here, but we'll be assured to follow up with you in a timely manner on any questions you have.
Well, there will be one that will come up in the not too distant future, and that is the issue of the water meters that we have to switch those out. And I don't know if Russ had shared how much Russ had shared of that problem with you, but that we've been advised that our current vendor on the water meters is no longer going to support those current ones. So we were talking about having switch over to the Neptune meters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which-
use the Eastham, all of the Eastham,
Right.
to like kind of piggyback off of Eastham.
Yep.
And I can send you the meeting minutes from that meeting too, if you just want to get caught up on that. Because I think that was the beginning of June or early May or late May that we had that conversation.
That would be great,
Sure.
just to kind of get us up to speed. I do have a conference call with EPG as well on Thursday. Steve Dunn and myself and John Aprea to just kind of get caught up on a whole bunch of different items. But that would be great to have in the fold as well, just
Sure,
so
no
we
problem.
can see where we stand. And that makes a lot of sense, to be able to have continuity between the equipment for serviceability and supply and everything else.
Well, it made more financial sense for us to kind of piggyback off of them so that we wouldn't have to buy, or the commissioners wouldn't have to buy all new stuff, just the meters, because the meters in and of itself is going to be pretty expensive.
Right. Yeah, the different equipment for reading and supporting and everything else makes a lot of sense.
Right, and it's better for our billing company to read those meters. The water reads are not easy to do right now.
Okay. But yeah, like I said, just looking forward to working with you guys, and thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Eric. So if there is nothing else, I would suggest that we adjourn the meeting.
I just had one quick thing, Jim, if you don't mind. I would love to do a walk through of the building that's being heated during the wintertime, just to take a quick look at what we might be able to do there before winter.
For
John-
the one with the high electric bill,
High heat,
correct?
Yeah, the high
Yep.
electric bill.
Where is that one?
I mean, that I would assume that Mike Nee can do that with you.
Sure, I'd love to just go over and see quick, and I could reach out to Eversource if what are they now?
No, you're right. It's Eversource.
Yeah, Eversource, or Cape Light Compact to see what they might be able to do for us. Whether it makes sense to, heat wrap that pipe, insulate and heat the building, just come up with some solution.
How about if I do this? I'll send you Mike's phone number, and you can give him a call, someday, and so when you're available, and then he could probably meet you over there and just, go into the.
I know he's in Wellfleet all week too, Kurt. So, because
Oh, okay.
normally he goes back and forth, but he told me he was in Wellfleet for most of the week because I met up with him this morning to give him the water computer to do a final water read for me.
Great. Yeah, it's just, I know it's not a big deal, but I didn't want to lose sight of it.
No, I think it's great. It's a very high bill.
I'd like to go over with you.
When's our next meeting?
I'd like to do it before we send in the application for the Mass Works. So That is I would expect that, let me just take a look at the calendar here.
Technically, you would be scheduled for August 18th. That's 2 weeks from now. I mean, you can go a little later if you want.
No, that's probably a good time to do it because the we won't have submitted the application yet, but I think that I'd like to have people aware of it before it goes out. So let's shoot for the 18th.
Okay, let's go one.
Good.
4 o'clock is still good for you guys?
Yep.
Yes,
And Tom, I'll email, after Rebecca sends me the contact information, I'll email him so we can all be in the same chain.
Good.
okay. Nothing else, then I say that we are adjourned.
Hi, guys. Stay healthy and safe during the storm. We're under a tornado warning.
Oh, are we really?
We
Oh,
really are. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm very not excited about it at all.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Take
Take
Bye,
care,
guys.
everybody.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.